Japan's finance minister has said that the economy is no longer stuck in deflation, paving the way for an end to 8 years of negative interest rates when the central bank meets on Tuesday. The world's third largest economy has seen falling prices for over 25 years, but a surge in salaries could be bringing an end to that trend. Japan's annual labour negotiations with unions, known as Shunto, or the Spring Wage Offensive, has seen major firms agreeing to a pay increase of over 5% for workers. That's the highest rate in over 3 decades. It's led to speculation that the Bank of Japan could raise wider interest rates from their current level of minus 0.1% when policymakers meet next week. If they do, it means Japan will officially be out of its 8-year period of negative interest rates, ending a long spell of discount borrowing for investors, both in Japan and abroad. Earlier, I spoke to Seijiro Takeshita, Professor of Management and Information at the University of Shizuoka, and I asked him if a change in Japan's economic outlook is underway at last.
Well, I think it's a bit too early because capital expenditure is very strong continuously, but that's on back of lack of personnel. In other words, rationalization kind of investment, not really forward-moving, investments. And private consumption still remains to be very conservative, considering the conservative nature of the Japanese spenders or consumers. So it's too early to say that, we're regaining, the strength, but the plateau of regaining the strength is definitely going to be here because it's the first rise in almost 20 years that, these employees are getting a decent pay rise.
The companies concerned, the Toshibas, Toyota, Panasonic, these kind of large traditional Japanese companies, they knew that this pay rise was important, that it might become a signal to other parts of the national economy. Why did they award this pay rise, do you think? And do you think other parts of the Japanese private sector will follow? Because after all, this is only 16% of the workforce.
Well, the fact of the matter is that we had inflation, which is a word we haven't heard in 2 decades. And for that reason, corporations had to raise, the pay. Also due to the fact that these companies were making very high levels of profit on back of price rise and also weaken the yen. So obviously, even the government were, were trying to convince these companies, to raise the pay, which hadn't taken place for 2 decades. So yes, it will be a kickoff start. And the trend of the Japanese corporation is such that the larger companies would show an example amid smaller ones to follow.
So I know you said it was too early to tell exactly what the effects on the economy might be, but could we project that we might be looking at some sort of a recovery led by the private sector?
I think, again, my guess is that the Japanese consumer mind is a lot more conservative than many people think. They need assurance of job security. That's definitely the first thing. But the propensity to spend, just because cash income comes in by the Japanese isn't, like that of the United States or the Americans. So I think it would be too early to say that the private consumption will be the leading, power of revival of the Japanese economy. I think it would first have to play with capital expenditure.
What about the international community then? Tourism against a stronger yen perhaps, export relationships changing, international investment in the Japanese economy. Can we see changes expected in these down the line?
Well, if the yen strengthens, obviously that would be putting off, many of inbound tourism. I think the important thing is, again, for the corporations to start investing on a forward-moving, multiplying type of investment, which calls for further innovation type of, investment, rather than backpedaling type of investment, which is rationalization, which unfortunately is the main force of capital expenditure right now. So if we see those kind of changes, mindset changing by the, the management, then I think we will see a good turnaround to take place in the Japanese economy as a whole.